Hello everyone, it is another week of Blackest Night, and this week we are checking out 3 Blackest Night miniseries: Batman, Superman, and Titans. Each consists of 3 issues which explore how Blackest Night affects these characters individually. So without further ado, let's get straight into them. We begin with Blackest Night Batman, written by Peter J. Tomasi, with art by Ardian CF, Vicente Cifuentes, and John Dell. We begin in Gotham City at the graves of Thomas, Martha, and Bruce Wayne, where Dick Grayson as Batman and Damian Wayne as Robin have arrived to see the aftermath of Flash and Green Lantern's fight with John Johns, and Black Hand having stolen Bruce's skull. This is actually the first time we've read a comic that has Dick Grayson as Batman. He will be Batman for a while before Bruce eventually comes back. Dick decides to stay and use his cape to cover the bodies of Thomas and Martha Wayne, while he asks Damian for his cape to cover Bruce's body, and he tells Damian to go back to the Batmobile because Damian cannot handle a situation like this, seeing someone that he was close to in this kind of state. Meanwhile, in the Himalayas, Deadman is looking for his body. As we know, a black ring came and turned his body into a Black Lantern while his ghost form was left separated. No matter how much he tried, he couldn't fuse with his body, and so he needs help figuring out a way to regain his body. So he goes off to find somebody that he has possessed before in the past. Meanwhile, 25,000 feet in the skies above Gotham, we see a bunch of guys who are transporting dead criminals somewhere in Gotham, and then the plane that they're in gets attacked by black rings. The black rings kill all of them and then possess the dead criminals and bring them back as Black Lanterns. We get to see them all here. They are all Batman villains, though Blockbuster has become more of a Nightwing villain over time. As Dick and Damian drive through the streets of Gotham, Damian points out the fact that he's disappointed that his dad is dead. His dream was to always be Robin alongside Batman. Now his dad is dead and he's never going to be able to fulfill that dream. And then Dick is like, hey, what are you wearing right now? Where are you sitting right now? Who are you sitting next to? You are literally living that dream right now, so shut up. He actually tells him to shut up. It's like, shut the hell up. It's like, oh my god. Damian apologizes to him and says that if they ever have to do a situation like that again, where he has to see his dad's dead corpse, he will be fine next time. He'll be able to deal with it. And then Deadman comes flying through the Batmobile and he possesses Dick, and he doesn't realize that it's Dick until he possesses him. Then he finds out it's Grayson. He's like, what happened to Wayne? Damian has to explain that Bruce Wayne is dead, but he also doesn't know who this guy is. So he's like, who are you? Why are you taking over Dick's body? And he starts punching him. They go driving off of a cliff, where Deadman explains to Damian who he is and what he can do, and then he possesses Damian's body and explains the whole situation to Dick, where the black rings are bringing people back to life. The dead is coming back to life, and they need to do something about it. So Dick is like, alright, let's drive off then, because not only are the black rings taking over dead beings with superpowers, but they're also taking over dead people without powers as well. We see a couple of black rings enter the graves of John and Mary Grayson, and then we also see a couple of black rings enter the graves of Jack and Janet Drake, who are Tim's parents, and you would assume that Dick and Damian are heading over to the grave where Dick's parents are, but they're not. We see John and Mary Grayson rise from their graves as Black Lanterns, and then we see Jake and Janet rising from their graves as Black Lanterns, and we find out that Dick and Damian had gone to the cemetery where Jack and Janet are, because that was the one they were closest to. and Deadman leaves Damian's body because he can sense the dead rising and it's causing him to freak out. And when they get to Janet and Jack's graves, they are empty. So the first thing Dick does is he calls up Tim and he's like, we got a big situation here, Tim. I know you don't want to talk to me right now because of stuff that's happened in the past, but your parents' bodies have gone missing. And Damian's like, good thing you made that call, Batman, because we're probably going to need all the help we can get. And we see the back signal. It's been smashed, and there are some silhouettes over it. So, looks like something going down in Gotham. You may have noticed the tally in the top right corner of the video. That tally is for how many hearts get ripped out in Blackest Night comics. In every video, I've been counting them all, and they have to be obvious. If it's just a dead body, that's not enough. Even if it's assumed it happened off panel, the Black Lantern has to say that they are either going to rip the heart out, and then it cuts to another scene, or it has to show them ripping the heart out for it to count. So I counted one from this guy, one from this guy. There are some dead bodies in this panel, but I didn't count any of them because it wasn't obvious enough. These two guys are very clearly punched through the heart, so it's assumed that their hearts do get ripped out. And then this guy down at the bottom did get his heart ripped out. On the next page, we see that Blockbuster and the ventriloquist have killed a lot of cops, but I'm not going to count any of these bodies because their hearts have clearly not been ripped out. These guys were all shot to death. Dick, Damian, and Deadman are all making their way through the sewers to get to the Army Reserve National Guard Armory so that they can pick up some flamethrowers, because obviously the Bat family aren't allowed to use guns, it goes against their code, but they are allowed to use flamethrowers, and the Black Lanterns are really hard to kill, so they gotta use whatever they can to try and kill them. Dick asks Damian how proficient he is in weaponry, and Damian explains that ever since he was out of the test tube that he was born in, he's been taught how to use every single kind of weapon by his mom. And Dick is like, wow, you had an amazing childhood then. And Dick is like, oh, you think jumping around the city wearing tights while fighting Two-Face and the Joker is a good childhood? Like, you're mocking me for my childhood, and yet that was most of your childhood? Come on. Dick just kind of looks at him, and Damian's like, all right, let's just stick to the plan. And Deadman's like, hell of a plan, you're gonna get yourself killed. Their plan is to head to Gotham Police headquarters to save all of the cops that are there, because the headquarters are currently being attacked by Black Lanterns. We see Commissioner Gordon, Barbara Gordan, whole bunch of cops, all fighting against the Black Lantern version of King Snake and his Trigger twins. We see a bunch of cops die here, but nobody gets their heart ripped out except for this one guy. Gets his heart ripped out and eaten by one of the Trigger twins. Gordon manages to get Barbara to safety in another room where he sees another Batman villain outside killing a couple of cops. He says that he's going to eat their hearts, and we hear him eating them, so I am going to count them. And then he appears in front of the window. He's like, knock, knock. Is anybody? And Gordon just starts shooting him with a shotgun repeatedly. He just keeps loading him with bullets from this shotgun, but it's not doing anything. And the shotgun runs out, and so he throws it to Barbara. Grabs out another gun. He's like, it's no use. Damn thing keeps rebuilding itself. Meanwhile, Dick and Damian are running through the sewers. They make it to the top of police headquarters where the Black Lanterns are. They bust their way through the door and they start blasting these Black Lanterns with fire. The wall of the room that Jim and Barbara are in explodes, and King Snake and the Trigger twins enter and are prepared to kill Babs and Jim, and they're gonna make Jim watch his daughter die before they kill him. But then Deadman arrives just in time. He possesses Barbara's body. He fights against the Black Lanterns, grabs Jim, jumps out of a window, getting Jim to safety. He tells Jim who he is, and Jim explains that Batman has mentioned Deadman before in the past. Deadman's like, alright, so you know everything about me, that's great. We gotta get out of here right now. Dick and Damian continue to use the flamethrowers against the Black Lanterns, but it isn't doing anything, and that's when Tim arrives flying in what looks like a bat plane, and he bisects one of the Black Lanterns. He tells Dick and Damian to activate the magnetic harnesses in their suits, so they attach themselves to the outside of the plane. Blockbuster tries to grab Dick and starts taunting him, saying that it's his fault that he died because he was killed by Tarantula, who was one of Dick's old girlfriends, and so he's blaming Dick for his death, trying to make him feel guilty about it. But Dick manages to shake him off with a flamethrower, and as they are flying off in the Batplane, they see Jim and Barbara, and they pick him up and they take him away in the plane to safety. While they are in the Batplane, they talk about what is going on, and that is when the windows to the plane are broken through by Tim's parents, who are now Black Lanterns, and they aren't the only ones that are here. Dick's parents are here as well as Black Lanterns. So we're in a bit of a sticky situation, and Tim decides to make a pretty gutsy move and purposely crashes the Batplane into the cemetery below. The Batplane crash lands through the cemetery into Haley's Circus, the one place that is isolated from everyone, where nobody can get hurt. Dick landed the plane here on purpose, and when they entered the circus, they find the Black Lanterns of the Graysons and the Drakes there, reenacting their deaths. Tim and Dick decide to head in and deal with these Black Lanterns, and they force Damian to take Barbara and Jim to safety. Damian really wants to come with them, but they're like, no, you can't. So what you need to do is you need to go to a mausoleum, and there is a secret entrance that will take you back to Wayne Tower so that you can get to the bunker. And Deadman leaves Babs' body so that he can go with Dick and Tim. And Damian is like, reluctantly, alright, fine. Dick then tells Deadman to go and get some help, because their flamethrowers wasn't enough to deal with the Black Lanterns because they didn't have enough ammo, so they need somebody who has an endless amount of flames. And that somebody is Jason Blood, specifically Etrigan the Demon, who is this otherworldly beast that Jason Blood can turn into. Jason doesn't want to get involved in this at all, and so Deadman forces Etrigan to come out by possessing Jason and saying the words, "Gone, gone, the form of man, arise the demon, Etrigan." And then Etrigan emerges from Jason's body, and Deadman remains in control of Etrigan. Tim and Dick soon realize what the Black Lanterns are doing, reenacting their deaths. We see Tim's father opening up the box that has the gun in it. We know that Captain Boomerang is going to come in any moment now and kill him, and Tim wants to save him because he hasn't really learnt anything. He doesn't even realize that this isn't them. These are just Black Lanterns. But Tim says maybe there is a lantern ring out there that can bring people back to life. You know, maybe Tim's onto something. But all we know right now is that that is not possible. Dick tries to get it into Tim's head, but as soon as he sees his father, he's a hypocrite. Because his father calls out to him saying the words that he would normally do when they're having a show, and Dick just instinctively grabbed his arms and was stuck in this situation where he was performing with his father and having to look in his father's eyes, knowing that he was going to have to burn them at some point. And meanwhile, Tim has a heartfelt conversation with his father, where his father is like, if I don't make it out of here alive, Tim, I want you to go and find Dick, and I want him to take care of you. And Tim's like, no, you're gonna get out of this. I'm gonna make sure that you're not gonna die. And then Captain Boomerang shows up, and Tim's like, you son of a bitch! And he saves his dad's life. And then attacks Boomerang and starts punching him in the face. I stopped you, Boomerang! I stopped you! Meanwhile, Dick is hanging from the trapeze with his father, and his father tells him that he loves him and that they're gonna have to try and stop him from killing us. And Dick is like, who? It's like, that man. And then the rope breaks. They fall into the ground, and we see the Black Lantern version of Tony Zuko, the man responsible for killing Dick's parents. And he gets so mad that he punches Zuko in the face, so we see Tim fighting Boomerang and Dick beating the shit out of Zuko. And then the other Black Lanterns come in, and one of them tries to steal Dick's heart, but before he can, Etrigan shows up, using his flames to attack the Black Lanterns, which frees Tim and Dick from their grasp. This is obviously still Deadman possessing Etrigan. And then Dick gets in contact with Damian, who has arrived at the bunker, and he tells Damian to send one of Mr. Freeze's freeze rays to them, because he has a plan. Damian sends the freeze ray, Dick receives it, and then he says to Tim, he's like, do you trust me? Tim's like, of course I do. And he freezes Tim with it, and then he points it at himself and freezes himself with it. And then at that moment, Etrigan expels Deadman from his body. He's like, get out of my body! I don't want you controlling me anymore! Then one of the Black Lanterns tries to steal Etrigan's heart, but Etrigan doesn't have a heart. He's like, oh, you filthy monsters, I want nothing to do with you, and then he leaves. He doesn't even stay a moment to fight with them. He's like, I'm out of here, as soon as he's gotten control of his own body. And with Tim and Dick frozen, Deadman counts to himself to 10 Mississippis. He is waiting for Tim and Dick to die, so that their hearts stop. And then the Black Lanterns all leave, and Deadman enters Dick and Tim's bodies and brings them both back to life. They smash their way out of the ice, and they see all the Black Lanterns leaving and decide that they need to stop them. They know exactly what they're after. They're after the bodies of people that are dead, and so from now on they're going to try and stop more dead people from being possessed by Black Lantern rings. That is apparently their goal, from what they say here. I don't know if it's going to be successful. I guess we'll find out. But that is the end of Blackest Night Batman. And so now we move on to Blackest Night Superman, written by James Robinson, with art by Eddie Barrows, Roy Jose, and Julio Ferreira. The story begins with Earth 2 Superman rising from his grave, and then we cut to Smallville, where Pete Ross is having a conversation with a guy named Frank and a woman named Marley. They're just talking to each other about how things are going, how the harvest is going, just the stuff that people in Smallville talk about. Marley looks up in the sky and she says, hey, is that a bird? And you think that you can see like the silhouette of Superman or something, and then it disappears. They're like, oh, I guess it was nothing. Meanwhile, at the office of Sheriff Hayes, a recruit has gone in and told him that he is going to move to the Metropolis police force. And Sheriff Hayes is like, why would you do that? It's like, because nothing happens around here. I want to be where the action is. And then all of a sudden, Hayes gets pulled through the ground, leaving a massive gaping hole in his office. It's like, Sheriff Hayes! Then, at a local diner, a bunch of townsfolk are all talking to each other, having a cup of coffee, and that's when the door opens, and a Black Lantern enters the diner, kills everybody inside it. The lights just suddenly go out. So, very much getting horror movie vibes here, which is what I want from a Blackest Night comic. And speaking of horror movies, at the Smallville Drive-In Cinema, they're watching Friday the 13th. A couple is making out, and all of a sudden, we see from the point of view of a Black Lantern, and they are all killed off-panel. We then cut to Martha, Connor, and Clark all spending time together with Krypto because they're celebrating the Memorial Day. Krypto begins growling, so they head off in search for what they hear, and they come face to face with Earth 2 Superman as a Black Lantern who has dug up Jonathan Kent's grave, and he says that they will see Jonathan very soon, because he's also going to be a Black Lantern. And then they get into a big fight with Earth 2 Superman where he grabs Connor and takes him into space. Meanwhile, Krypto hears another noise and starts growling again, and Martha goes to check out what it is, and all of a sudden, the wall smashes open, hitting Krypto, sending him flying and knocking him out, poor Krypto. And we see that the culprit is Earth 2 Lois Lane, who has come back as a Black Lantern as well, and she kidnaps Martha. Clark and Connor fight Earth 2 Superman in space, where he mocks them and says that Connor is worthless and that he doesn't understand why Clark is so fond of him, and that because of that, he is a better Superman than Clark is, because he was saving his world while Clark couldn't even save his own dad. And Clark's like, "You're not Kal-El," and he smashes him in the face. "I am Kal-El, new and improved, though the old me wasn't so bad. You were always too cautious, scared of your own powers. Me, even when I was a kid, why, I'd leap tall buildings at a single bound. You care about Connor, that little piece of trash. Trash I've thrown away. Well, what are you waiting for?" And he expects Clark to fight him, but instead of fighting him, Clark does what he does best, and he picks the people that he loves to save. So he saves Connor's life. And then, as they turn around, Earth 2 Superman is gone. Meanwhile, on New Krypton, Supergirl heads to Kandor in order to meet with her mother so that they can pay respects to her dead father. But, unfortunately, this is Blackest Night, so a Black Lantern ring smashes through the ceiling and turns her father into a Black Lantern. So everybody's dealing with dead family members, even Supergirl. Clark and Connor head home, where they find the place in shambles. They find Krypto knocked out, and they realize that Martha is gone, but they can hear her heartbeat somewhere else. So they head to Smallville, because apparently that is where her heartbeat is. And when they get there, they realize that Smallville is really quiet. Too quiet. There aren't even any animals, which means it's been deserted because they've been afraid of something. And then they come face to face with Earth 2 Superman and Lois Lane, who have kidnapped Martha, and they state that they are going to reunite her with Jonathan Kent, which means kill her. Bit of a random thought, but the Black Lanterns love eating hearts. I wonder if we'll ever come across that joke where a character is like, "Oh, you love eating hearts, do you? Well, then eat this," and punches them. Like, I wonder if that's gonna happen. I feel like there's a 90% chance of that joke showing up at some point. I don't think it's happened already. That morning, everybody was having a lovely time, but that night, we see Superman and Connor fighting Earth 2 Superman in the streets of Smallville while everybody watches. They're like, "Oh my god, can you see who they're fighting? Who are they fighting? Looks like some kind of Superman." Connor gets sent flying through a water tower by Earth 2 Superman, and they're like, "Oh, should we go check on him?" And another citizen is like, "No, like, that's dangerous. What are you thinking?" And that's when, out of nowhere, Psycho Pirate shows up, because we need another reference to Crisis on Infinite Earths. He doesn't really have any reason to be here other than to just cause chaos. He puts emotions into all these different people. One guy is so afraid, he rips his own eyeball out. It's disgusting. It also makes two guys lust for each other and start making out. Earth 2 Superman tells Lois Lane to kill Martha Kent, and Connor goes to save her. He uses his heat vision to cut off Lois's arm. Martha manages to get away, and she runs into the cornfield. Then Lois just picks up her arm, puts it back on, and heads into the cornfield after Martha. Earth 2 Superman then states that once Martha's dead, he is going to destroy Smallville, because Superman loves Smallville. And he refers to Superman as an alien. He's like, you love this place, don't you, you alien? And they're just smashing through buildings, smashing through the street. You know, Superman's really struggling to stop Earth 2 Superman from causing death and destruction here. Like, you see all these cars flying around, it's assumed there's people in them. People are dying. And everyone's also making out as well, thanks to Psycho Pirate. And Connor goes around looking for Martha, and that's when he sees that the entire town is in chaos. He's like, what the hell is going on? And then he sees Psycho Pirate. He's like, because of me, Psycho Pirate, I'm doing this. So Connor goes to attack him, and Psycho Pirate uses his abilities against Connor. Superman tries to talk to Earth 2 Superman. Clark tries to reason with him and say that deep down, there must be a part of him still there. He's like, no, there's nothing left of me in here. You can keep searching, you're not going to find anything. Soon, the firefighters will arrive to maybe put out these fires. Actually, I doubt that because they have been made afraid of flames. So he's like, but who? By the Psycho Pirate, of course. And then Clark sees Connor, and he's like, Connor, the Psycho Pirate's here? He's like, really, Clark? You think? And kind of punches him in the face because he has been filled with rage by the Psycho Pirate. Because the only real reason Psycho Pirate is even in this book to begin with is so that we can have a reason for Connor and Clark to fight each other. That's it. So we get a big fight between Connor and Clark because that had to happen. Can't really have a DC crossover that doesn't have Superman fighting another Kryptonian or somebody who is an old friend. And then we cut to Kandor, where Supergirl has come face to face with her father, and he's already started killing people on Kandor, and he's also knocked out her mum. Hasn't killed her, but he states that he is going to destroy the entire city, kill everybody, and probably try and kill everyone on Krypton as well. And Supergirl tries to reason with her father as well, and says that there's probably a way to treat him or cure him. He said, there's no way to cure me because I'm not actually your father, and also because you're useless. You can't even do anything. Couldn't even save me from being killed in the first place. And that makes Supergirl so mad that Kara just punches him straight in the head, blowing the top of his head to smithereens. He's like, You couldn't stop my murder, and you won't stop me when I kill this city. And then we cut to Earth 2 Lois searching the cornfields for Martha, and Martha is like, I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of you. You hurt my dog. It's like, how would Connor put it? Oh yeah, it's on. And so we're gonna get Martha Kent versus Lois Lane, or Black Lantern Lois Lane, which is pretty exciting. We don't often get to see Martha do anything like this. Krypto lays in front of the Kent farm until something gets his attention, so he flies off. Kara is continuing to fight her father on Krypton. Psycho Pirate is continuing to make everybody go crazy with emotions. And one of those people is Connor Kent, who is fighting Clark right now. He is filled with rage. He's saying all sorts of things like, half of me is Luthor, and I feel like I'm becoming more like him as time goes on, so I just want you to kill me. And Clark tries to convince him that this isn't him, this is Psycho Pirate's doing, but Connor won't listen, and Clark gets attacked by Earth 2 Superman, and then we cut to Martha Kent facing Earth 2 Lois Lane, where she sets the cornfield around her on fire, and Lois is trying to mock her, saying that she's a widow, and that she was always going to be a widow, because everybody around her is going to die. It started with Jonathan Kent, and then it's going to be Clark, and then it's going to be Connor. Even Krypto is going to die. And Lois gets set alight by Martha, and is like, yeah, you think fire is going to take me down? Wrong, wrong, wrong. Fire, you stupid crone. My ring keeps me whole. My ring means you'll never stop me. And Martha's like, the ring. Krypto, the ring. And Krypto comes running in and chomps off Earth 2 Lois's arm, taking the ring with it. And then Earth 2 Lois gets blasted by fire, However, it doesn't kill her. She continues chasing after Krypto. She fights Krypto, and Krypto hits her with his heat vision, sending her falling into a massive crevice. And then Martha is like, "Great job, Krypto, that was awesome. Now, go help the boys." Meanwhile, on Krypton, a local Kryptonian approaches Kara's mother and tells her that they have studied her dead father and that they have figured out a way to keep the Black Rings and the Black Lanterns out of Krypton. They can create a barrier that will keep them out, but first, there has to be no Black Lanterns on Krypton to begin with, so they need to find a way to get him off of Krypton. And so she states that she is going to help her daughter get her dead husband off of the planet. It's like, "Come, my husband, I'll have that kiss after all." Clark continues to be beaten up by Connor and Earth 2 Superman, and Connor manages to break through the rage that he is filled with when he sees Clark in the condition that he is. He's like, "Let go of him!" "Too late, dirty clone. I'll have his heart in." "No, I won't let you. I'll..." And that's when Connor remembers that he has tactile telekinesis. It allows him to channel energy and push objects with it. And so he uses it against Earth 2 Superman to hit him really hard. Clark tells Connor to go deal with Psycho Pirate while he and Krypto deal with Earth 2 Superman. We see Psycho Pirate killing a whole bunch of people, ripping out their hearts. I had to count. All of these people on the ground here have their hearts ripped out. I counted about 13 people, I think. It's really hard. Some of the bodies blend together, but I think there's 13 here. And then Connor crashes into the ground. He's like, "Cal's right. I should use all my powers. What do you think, you murdering?" And he grabs the Medusa mask from Psycho Pirate. He's like, "You want it? Come and get it. Time for a test drive." He looks at the crowd of people standing down on the streets looking at him. He puts the mask on in front of them and fills them with hope, compassion, love, will. And he's like, "Here, creep, look at me." And then he goes after Psycho Pirate. Kara and allure Kara's father into space so that they can leave him there. They shut the shields, and as he tries to get in, his hand gets cut off by the shield, and he's locked in space. Connor saves Clark from Earth 2 Superman using the Medusa mask. He feels Earth 2 Superman with all kinds of emotions, and this breaks the Black Lantern ring. So you can offset the Black Lantern ring by filling it with emotions. It just completely deactivates it. Both Earth 2 Superman and Psycho Pirate. We didn't see him do it to Psycho Pirate. It happened off panel, but he did the same thing to him. And so now they are just lifeless corpses that they're going to have to clean up later. Clark and Connor return to Smallville where they plan to fix everything and then head off and get answers for what's going on. And that's Blackest Night Superman. Overall, I wasn't really a huge fan of this. I think it was fine, but I think it could have been a lot better. I don't know why they chose Earth 2 Superman, Lois, and then regular Psycho Pirate to be the Black Lanterns in this book, when those three characters have very little connection to Superman or Connor emotionally. It really should have been a Black Lantern version of Clark's Kryptonian parents, Jor-El and Lara, and his human father, Jonathan Kent. And so for most of the book, you have Connor and Clark having to fight Jor-El and deal with Lara as well. And then you have Martha fighting Jonathan, like having to face Jonathan Kent instead of Earth 2 Lois Lane. That would have been so much better. There would have been so much more emotional weight there. That's the thing that this is lacking compared to Blackest Night Batman and all of the other Blackest Night tie-ins, is that they all featured characters that were very close emotionally to those characters, whether they be supervillains or family members and friends, and you can't say the same for this one. It's missing that, and that is the main problem with it. Now we move on to the final miniseries this week, Blackest Night Titans, written by J.T. Krul, with art by Ed Baines, Rob Hunter, John Sibel, and J.P. Mayer. Up until this point, I have read everything Titans related, so I'm pretty good on their history, and I should know who a lot of these characters are and their relationships when they show up in this. It begins with everybody mourning dead relatives, family members, friends. We got Deathstroke mourning his dead son Grant Wilson, who was killed by Hive. We have Red Star, who is mourning his ex-girlfriend Panther, and Panther's son Wildebeest, adopted son Wildebeest. And we have Ravager, who I assume is mourning Red Devil or Kid Devil, because they had a bit of a thing and he died. And now she's sleeping with other men. And she's like, get out of here before I cut it off. And you know exactly what she's referring to. We see the rest of the Titans all mourning their fallen friends. And then there's also Terra, who many don't consider to be a friend because she was working with Slade Wilson and she tried to murder them. But Beast Boy has never gotten past that, and he still believes that Tara was a good person, and that if they'd really given her a chance, she would have made a great Titan. Starfire completely disagrees with him, and so does Cyborg as well, but Starfire really digs into him about it, and it kind of upsets him. And Donna Troy mentions the fact that her ex-husband, Terry Long, and her son, Robert, both died in a car crash. They're not the only ones that died in that car crash. Terry also had a daughter who died in that too, but they don't mention her here. It's a bit sad. Holly and Dawn Granger think about Hank Hall because he was partners with Dawn for many years, and Holly has taken over as the new Hawk, and she hated Hank. She said Hank was a piece of shit. And Dawn was like, that was just his armor. He was different on the inside. And you just need to understand that. He wasn't a bad guy. And this isn't a competition as to who can be the better Hawk. And then she looks at a statue of Don Hall. As we know, Don Hall cannot be taken over by a Black Ring because he is at peace with himself. But Hank Hall has already been taken over by a Black Ring because he is not at peace with himself, because he's Hank Hall. And he's always pissed. Holly and Dawn have a night out together at a club, and on the way home, they continue to talk about Hank, and that's when they come across a hawk and a dove that are dead, and they believe it's a message. Somebody is sending them a message, and they continue to find more dead doves and hawks, and it leads them directly to a library. Where they head inside, they're still kind of muttering to each other, back and forth, because they are sisters, they're having a little bit of a squabble. And then they see at a nearby window, Hawk. Black Lantern, Hank Hall. Bart looks at a statue of Lilith, who had died. Donna looks at a photo of her husband and son. And Starfire and Cyborg talk about the fact that she really upset Beast Boy, and Garth has gone outside. He's looking at the ocean. So much for Heroes Day. But it's not like I need to remember you. Right, Tara? We see somebody watching him. Say, hello, Gar. Tara! Yeah, it's me. And Tara Markov appears behind him. Her brother actually appeared earlier in the book, Geoforce. So I imagine that he will meet Tara as well. She doesn't seem to be a Black Lantern, but this isn't the first time that we've seen a Black Lantern appear in their regular form and then turn into a Black Lantern. Gar is completely shocked to see Tara alive and well. He asks her how it is possible, and she says, I am Terra, Rubble is in my name, even though I got crushed by it. I have Earth powers, so I just moved them away, and I felt so guilty over everything I did, working with Slade, that I decided to just disappear. And Gar's like, so you can just disappear for so long and then come back like it was nothing? And she's like, how come Bart and Connor can come back to the ones they love, but not me? Like, of course, but this is... And then they kiss. And while I'm not the hugest fan of this pairing, just because of the history behind it, this was a sweet moment. Holly and Dawn fight Hank as he just smashes them across the room in the library. It's pretty messed up. He's not holding back. And he's having a hard time hitting Dawn because Dawn has the ability to see ahead of time a little bit. She can see like chain reactions and stuff, so she knows when Hank is going to attack her. She kicks him in the back of the head, and then Holly grabs the statue and is like, I'm the better Hawk, I'm better than you, I'll show you how tough I am. And she smashes the statue on top of him, and then he punches her in the gut. It's like, but you forgot the first rule. Don't mess with Hawk. Playtime's over. As Gar kisses Tara, we see that it is an illusion created by the Black Lantern version of Lilith. Starfire and Cyborg attack Lilith, and so now that her powers and her focus has been messed with, the illusion has fallen, and we see that Tara is, in fact, a Black Lantern. Don't stand there drooling. What do you think of the all-new Terra? Come on, Gar. You gave me your heart long ago. I'm just here to collect. And then we cut to Donna Troy sleeping, and she hears Mummy. And then we hear some screeching noises. And then she wakes up to see a pram in front of her, a baby carriage. Hank grabs a table and slams it on top of Dawn, and then he grabs his fists and slams them on top of Harley. Then he grabs her by the throat. You can't stop me, Dove, and you can't save her. And Dove is trying to stop him, and he just throws her aside, and then he walks over to Harley, and he plunges his fist straight into her chest. That's a problem I don't have. Holly! Pretty frickin' brutal. Donna walks over to the pram and finds a rattle inside with the Black Lantern symbol on it, and then she turns to find her dead husband and son behind her, which is a pretty awful sight to see. Her son is a Black Lantern, and I find it darkly hilarious seeing this little baby zombie flying around. Donna grabs onto her son and hugs him. Is this really you? This is impossible. Is this a dream? Nothing's impossible, Donna. You cheated death enough times to teach us that. And then Robbie bites a chunk out of Donna's neck. Sorry, dear. Not a dream. Try the other one. Meanwhile, Starfire and Cyborg continue their fight against Lilith, while Beast Boy is attacked by Terra, who has constricted him in a whole ton of rubble. Cyborg is convinced that this isn't really their friend, and we learn a little bit of lore about Cyborg, is that apparently he doesn't believe in ghosts. This is the first time that they've ever mentioned that. Terra chases Beast Boy as he turns into a marten, and then he turns into a hawk, I think. And he dives towards her and transforms into a mammoth, where he lands directly on top of her, smashing into the ground below. And then she somehow gets on top of him. And using her abilities, she turns him back to normal and tries to steal his heart. But then Starfire comes up from behind her and attacks her. She's like, I never liked you, so this is pretty easy for me. And using her abilities, she burns Tara to a crisp. Now, Starfire's abilities, she basically has the power of the sun itself. So realistically, she should have been able to destroy the Tara Black Lantern and deactivate the ring, but for story purposes, she doesn't. We can clearly see that the ring is still on Tara's hand, which means that Black Lantern Tara must still be alive, or dead and functioning, because they're not alive. Meanwhile, Hank Hall just rips out Holly's heart. That's right, Holly's dead, which is really unfortunate. A very wasted character. She only debuted a few years ago in an issue of Teen Titans. She got barely any backstory other than the fact that she's Dawn's sister, and then she died. One of the most wasted characters of all time. And then he attacks Dawn, and the two have a fight. He tries to get under her skin by saying that maybe I loved Dawn more than you loved your own sister. And I mean, canonically, Dawn didn't know Holly for very long. But she's like, Holly was my friend. Even though I didn't know her for most of my childhood and I only met her recently, she's my best friend. And she punches Hank in the face. He goes flying through a window, and at the same time, a Black Lantern ring attaches itself to Holly because she's dead, and she transforms into a Black Lantern and meets Dawn face to face, and then she teams up with Hank, and they say how great they are as a duo, and that maybe Hawk and Hawk is always better than Hawk and Dove. Donna pushes her Black Lantern baby off of her, and then Robbie and Terry both attack her at the same time, even though she begs them to stop. But Bart Allen manages to save her just in time. He rendezvous with Cassie, and that's when they realize that the wound that Robbie left on Donna's neck has started reacting. She's got all these weird black veins going up her face. This is the first time we've ever seen something like this. It seems like Donna's been infected, which didn't even know that was a thing. I don't think it is a thing with Black Lanterns. It might only be a thing in this. You know, the Black Lanterns are zombies, but this isn't a zombie virus. You can't just get bitten by a Black Lantern and then become one. Cyborg and Starfire are both placed in trances by Lilith, and then Terra, surprise, surprise, reactivates, comes back to life as a Black Lantern, and then uses her abilities to pull Titan Tower into the ground while Cassie, Donna, and Bart are still inside of it. Dawn dodges Holly's attacks and elbows her in the face because Holly just won't shut up, and then she runs away, and Hank and Holly leave after her and are like, what are we gonna do now? And Bart, Cassie, and Donna need to figure out a way to get out of this rubble that they're currently stuck under. Bart can't do anything because if he tries to use his speed to get them out, he might cause a chain reaction. And that's when they realize that Donna can hear her husband and son talking. Like she has some weird connection to them now. And then she starts reacting to her wound. She falls onto the ground, starts spazzing out. And we see in her eyes the Black Lantern symbol. So yeah, maybe she is infected and is becoming a Black Lantern. Or maybe she's just become connected to the Black Lanterns. Gar tries to get Lilith to free Cyborg and Starfire, and he also tells Terra, Black Lantern, to stop looking like Terra, because he thinks it's some kind of trick, even though this is just Terra turned into a Black Lantern. And Terra states that they are going to kill the Titans, and then somebody else says, don't you mean we? We get to kill the Titans together. And Titans together is their catchphrase, so it's a fun little play on the catchphrase. And we get to see Tempest, Dolphin, Tula, Panther, and Wildebeest all as Black Lanterns. The last time we saw Tempest was in issue 2 of Blackest Night, when he became a Black Lantern. I mean, you can't really have a Titans miniseries without one of the Fab Four, or Fab Five, I guess, as they're known, since it was retconned that Roy Harper was an original Titan. Donna is spending a lovely day with Terry and Robert until Robert bites into his father's shoulder, and it's revealed to just be a dream, where Donna tells Cassie that she is going to need to fight her husband and son. She has no choice, but she can't fight them like this. She's gonna need her costume. So she asks Cassie to go get it for her. Gar uses his powers to transform into a Stegosaurus, and he smacks Lilith away and then bites off Tara's arm. This frees Cyborg and Starfire from their control, and that's when the other Black Lantern Titans arrive, and so all three of them start fighting the Black Lanterns, and Cyborg realizes that Tempest is dead, he's like, oh my god, that sucks. You were alive not too long ago and now you're dead? And Tempest is like, yeah, how does it feel being the one who has been responsible for killing a lot of Titans? Because during a Titan special, Cyborg tried to make a new team, and quite a few of them died. Panther and Starfire fight each other. Panther doesn't really get to say anything interesting. She just says the typical stuff that most Black Lanterns say. And Wildebeest doesn't say anything at all, even though he can talk. Terra and Gar continue to fight, and Terra tries to weasel her way back into Gar's heart so that she can steal it from him. Meanwhile, Tempest is like, oh, I wonder if you even have a heart in there, Cyborg. And for a moment, you think that Beast Boy is going to fall for Terra again as she goes shh up to his lips. And at that moment, Donna comes crashing through the ground, punching her husband. Bart's like, oh my god, they killed Tempest. I wonder who else died. And we're also reminded that Tula is here, even though she wasn't really a Titan. She just had to be here, I guess. There are other dead characters that could be here. Like, there are other dead Titans that could be here. I don't know why she had to be one of them. You know, same with Dolphin. Why is she here? Terry tries to tell Donna to remember their wedding vows and what they promised to each other, and Donna says, I know you're not the real Terry. I figured it out. You are nothing. You've succeeded in poisoning my memories of my husband and son, and because of that, Terry is dead to me. And she just punches straight through his chest. And it gets even more brutal than that. She grabs her son, and she's like, this is not my son. This is a Black Lantern. This is not my son. These are not our friends. These are not our family. So it is okay what we are doing right now. We are doing what is right. We have to do this. And she crushes his head while crying. It's so brutal. Like, it's not them. I'm sorry. And God just goes crazy at Terra. He's like, you're pretending to be this woman that I loved, but you are not Terra. You will never be Terra. It's like, it's me. It's really me. It's like, no, you're not. But you might as well be, because you're just like her. A fake, a phony, everything she was, everything I saw in her, I made it all up in my head. And I knew deep down, I knew, none of it was real. Maybe, but it doesn't change the fact that you still love me. I don't care what you know, what you realize, what you believe. No matter what happens, you'll always love me. I know! And he just rips her in half. And then something interesting happens. Tempest is messing with everybody, and Dove attacks him from behind, and we see some bright light, as if her attack actually hurt him. And then Hank shows up and attacks Cyborg, and Holly shows up and attacks Dawn. And then Panther and Wildebeest grab Cassie, and they try to rip her in half. They take the forms of Tim Drake and Connor Kent, two characters that she has been in a relationship with in the past, trying to pull her apart like a wishbone. And that is when Donna shows up and breaks Black Lantern Lilith's neck. Terry and Robert show up again because you can't destroy the Black Lanterns just by punching through them. Holly attacks Dawn. Dawn can't even fight back. She just smashes straight into her, sending her flying. She goes to steal Dawn's heart, and she can't. All of a sudden, this power starts overwhelming her. She gets sent flying, and she grows to grab her again, and it's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, what is this power? And then Holly is just destroyed by Dove. And the other Titans notice this, and they're all drawn to Dawn. And Dawn tells them to stay away from her and to just let the Black Lanterns come to her. She doesn't want her fellow Titans to risk their lives. And so they all go towards her, they reach towards her, and all this light envelops them coming out of Dawn, because Dawn has the power of hope, or light is her whole thing. She's the opposite of Hawk. She's not about rage. And the light that she irradiates is a weakness for the Black Lanterns. It destroys most of them, not all of them. 3 of them survive: Hank, Terra, and Tempest. And then Dawn Hall appears in front of Dawn. And this is just his ghost. And he tells her to do whatever she can to get through to his brother and put a stop to him so that he can finally rest in peace. Because that's all he wants. He just wants his brother to rest. It's like, please, don't give up on him now. It's a pretty great moment. Dawn wakes up. They realize that somehow she destroyed a bunch of the Black Lanterns, but some of them got away, and so they are going to have to go after them. Cyborg has a bit of a conversation with Beast Boy, saying that, you know, you loved Terra, but you're gonna have to let go of her. And Beast Boy is like, I'm gonna find her. Cyborg was like, no, I said you gotta let go of her. And he's like, no, not Terra. I'm gonna find the woman out there that is meant for me. Donna turns to Dawn and says, when we go searching for those Black Lanterns to try and stop them, I want you to be near me because my son bit me and I feel like there is a chance I could become one of them. So I want you near me in case that ever happens. I don't even know if that's actually gonna happen. This is where the miniseries ends. Who knows? I guess we'll find out in Blackest Night if Donna ever turns into a Black Lantern. I doubt that's ever gonna happen. It's never been established that the Black Lanterns are like actual zombies where if they bite you, you become one. This just feels like something that JT Krul came up with on the spot that doesn't pay off. But that's where it ends. And that's it for all of these Blackest Night miniseries for this week. There are more that we will cover in the future, but for now, we're done with tie-ins, and next week, we are continuing with the main Blackest Night story. So far, the event has been really good, and these tie-ins were all pretty great. Out of all of them, the Blackest Night Superman one was the most disappointing one because of the lack of emotional depth to it, emotional weight. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and I will see you next week for more Blackest Night. Have a good one.